Again. My guest today is Nausheena Hussain. She is a co-founder and executive director of Platform for Empowering Women in her community, known as Reviving the Islamic Sisterhood for Empowerment Rise. She is dedicated in building a movement to address leadership development, increase community engagement, and create a philanthropic legacy for a change. I would also like to say that she is a truly shiro. Nausheena, thank you for being with us, and of course, I have to ask from the beginning, how are you?
Oh, thank you, Amra. I really appreciate that you have invited me to this platform to talk, and I think I'm feeling good. I mean, we are in a really difficult time. Every part of the world feels like it's in pain or it's burning, and still, we still are trying to make the world a better place one moment at a time.
This interview will be run in Minnesota Women's Press, but also in my country, in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So I would like to start with this first question: how you decided to form Arise?
Yeah. So about 6 years ago, Amra, we noticed that constantly Muslim women were being portrayed in a very negative limelight. We constantly saw that men were always on the front lines of leadership positions. And we also saw that there was so much happening in sort of the political democratic arena, and Muslim women seem to be missing from all of those areas. And so I gathered a group of Muslim women together in literally six years ago, and we had a conversation about, what does leadership mean to you? What does community engagement mean to you? Why are we not seeing Muslim women leaders? And from this conversation, what I learned was women are doing great work. They're actually behind the scenes. They're the ones actually running the show, and nobody knows about it. And then second was, Muslim women just felt like there wasn't a space or platform for them to meet each other, to get to know each other, and to learn about what each other is doing. And so that was basically the start of our establishing this platform where Muslim women can meet each other, get to know each other. And we built out programming being responsive to what Muslim women needed.
On your website, you started one of the blogs with these words. Please allow me to read them. As a woman of color who wears the hijab, I'm a visual representation of Islam. I carry the responsibility and sometimes the burden of everything Muslim for many of my neighbors. I'm a stereotype for many, even as I'm trying to break those stereotypes. That affects my leadership, how I use my voice, my power, and even how I show up to talk about issues impacting my community. Can you describe what stereotypes there are for Muslim women in the United States? Because here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have mainly Muslim society. And when I go somewhere and when I tell my name, Amra, I usually have people have some kind of image based on my name. So yeah. I would like to understand, how is it in United States?
Yeah. So in the US, remember, we are a post 9/11 era. We've gone to multiple wars with countries in the Arab nations. And so there is a lot of just hatred towards Muslims because of a sort of unfounded fear of who Muslim Americans are. And compounding that is this view that Muslim women need saving, that we don't have rights and that we aren't allowed to do things. And the hijab and the burqa or the niqab, these are all seen as signs of oppression in the Western world, instead of being seen as signs of like piety or somebody's religious identity or their conviction, right? So between these two sort of dichotomies, we're always in these interfaith conversations where I always get asked, what about the rights of women in Islam? Muslim women themselves aren't going around saying, this is oppressive, I'm oppressed. Yes, we understand that there's patriarchy and there's misogyny, but that's not just in the Muslim community, right? This is across the world, right? It doesn't matter what race or religion or ethnicity you are. We see we see women in general having their rights taken away from them. And so when we started Rise, and what we realized was it is going to be very difficult for us to tell this story that we have rights. So instead, what we do is highlight and profile Muslim women who are already in community doing fantastic work, right? So Muslim Sheroes of Minnesota is one of our storytelling projects. And we are not trying to sway the people at the one extreme that think all the horrible things about us. Instead, we're looking at the people sort of in the moderate middle, right? That don't know a Muslim, that have never interacted with one, right? We only comprise of like 1 or 2% of the entire population in the United States. So we can't be everybody's friend, right? We can't be in all these different spaces. But if we tell our stories ourselves, it gives us a lot more agency around what is the narrative around who Muslim women are. And that has been much more powerful in breaking those stereotypes, because when they watch our videos, when they listen to our podcast, when they read our stories, they forget about the Muslim and they start to care about the cause.
Yeah, and the person. How does your sense of responsibility mean you carry yourself as a leader talking about issues impacting your community?
Yeah. So I feel that I can't be alone in this fight for social justice, right? I can't do this all by myself. I need to bring others along. And that is what we have learned with Muslim women, is that they never want to be in the limelight alone. They always want to bring others along when they are making change. So whether we're asking Muslim women to go and vote, she doesn't go alone. She brings everybody in the household. She finds her friends, she finds her sisters, she finds her adult children, but she organizes everyone else to also go to vote. And this is the beauty of, I think, leadership, because it isn't just about one leader and one person. It is about building a movement. And the only way you're able to do that is if you have relationships in the community, and then you organize the community to make that change.
Muslim women are often faced with a lot of expectations. I have to say that, and pressure, because I have a friends, I discuss them about that. Society has certain image of how she should look, how she should work, how she should, behave. And on the other hand, there are also expectations from a family and religious community. How do you personally and Rise as an organization address the notion that political leadership is too much for woman herself to handle? How do you see that?
Well, first of all, I think we should really get away from this understanding that like politics and political democracy work is like separate. Everything you do every day is political, right?
Right.
In the United States, when I walk out with this hijab on my head, this is my First Amendment right. So this makes it political, right? But that's not why I wear it, right? I wear this because of my own understanding of what my religion is asking me. However, it is also seen like an act of resistance, right? In this political scheme, when I show up, it means I'm representing a different community. It is not the dominant community. And I also feel that when I look back at like the traditions that we know from our own prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, we realize everything he was doing was technically political, right? He was building community. He was building allies. He was creating treaties with different religious groups and different backgrounds and different places. And so those were all to like build the community, right? And so to me, political and democratic actions should not be really separated, but this is how we want to make sure things get done. And Amra, to me, politics all is like at the local level, right? At the city that you live in has the most impact on your everyday living life. And if you're not talking to your like mayor or your city council person, whatever elected official, these are people who are neighbors who live in your own city. And, you know, at the same time I was starting Rise, we were also trying to bring a mosque into our neighborhood. We needed our local government to pass that, right? We needed a conditional permit use. And when we got our building, we had to go to city council and get the permission to have the mosque. Do you know how many people came out against that? They were so afraid of Muslims in their backyard. They were afraid of what Muslims were going to do. And we, because we were involved in our city, because we had relationships with those elected officials, all of them had our back. They all supported us. They supported us as neighbors, not because we were just Muslim, but because we were residents of our community and we were involved in our community. And so when we asked Muslim women to be part of their communities, this is what it means. It isn't about getting out there and having political taglines and, creating, disrupting things. It is really about building relationships and being neighborly.
I have to say, you are so refreshing for me, your words, and I'm so impressed with all the work that you do. So if I'm watching like this, that's just because I am totally in love with your words. So what do you do within RISE to prepare women for a political engagement? Can you tell me something more about that?
Sure. So I have to say, when we first began RISE, we held a panel discussion with 3 women who were part of political campaigns. We had one woman who had run a campaign and became a school board member. We had one woman who is Ilhan Omar. She's our congresswoman right now. And we knew her since, before she became a representative. And she talked about her campaign and why she is running, right? And then we had a third woman who has worked on different political campaigns. She's worked on different candidates running for office. All 3 of these women look different. They're from different walks of life. They're from different races, and they have just really diverse lived backgrounds. And that was the start of when Ilhan told us, go out and caucus. And we didn't know what caucus was. So we learned about it. We trained women and we got them to go out and become delegates and write resolutions and participate in the entire presidential election cycle. People think that all in America, in the United States, we just vote in November. And they only think we vote every 4 years. And what we learned in the past is political movements actually happen all around this cycle. They don't happen just in November. You have to get already up here. And then once November happens, you have to hold people accountable for what they are doing. Even if your candidate loses, we tell Muslim women, you're going to contact the new person, you're going to congratulate them, and you are going to introduce yourself to them. Because later on, when something happens, they're going to remember you when you contact them again. And this was mind-blowing for us because we didn't realize elected officials actually, we're their boss. We are the leaders in that moment, right? We have to tell them what is on our minds. And so Amra, we had to train women how to tell their stories, right? If they picked an issue that they cared about, we asked them why and tell the story of why this is important to you. And then go into their office and tell them what is happening. Tell them what's happening in your community, to your family, and that you expect them to do something about it. And that was like a total change in attitude, right? Because we were often afraid that we had to come up with the solution, and we don't. We need to first at least start by telling our stories. And after that, we really got women super engaged. We have women in there who are constantly demanding, constantly talking. And then we see women running for office, right? And we don't tell women to run for office just to win the seat. I think it's really important that people realize when they see a Muslim woman running, it shows all those little girls that they have an opportunity to do something bigger and better, that there is a mentor out there. There is somebody that looks like them, that they can really strive for something bigger in changing their society. And so it is about inspiration. It's about motivating people to get up and do something and not just sit at home and complain about issues, but really getting involved.
Definitely. And that is such an advice also for people in my country. We shouldn't forget to implement those things. And we are usually shy to speak with our leaders that, I mean, they have their job because of us. But still,
Yeah.
I'm very interested to find out, when you were a young girl, what did you want it to be when you grow up?
Oh, Amra, this is such a typical answer. You're going to laugh. I
Okay.
have I am a child of immigrant parents, right? Both of my parents came from India, and they were coming out of just very poor backgrounds, right? Like poverty. And to escape that, the United States was the American dream of possibilities, right? And so when they got here, it was really important that kids were educated. And for them, financial stability was really, really important. And the only career that could provide financial stability in their minds was becoming a doctor. And so I also was, sort of guided to want that for myself. And so I did go through my undergraduate hoping to become a doctor. But then life changed, and I realized this is not where I want to go. And so from my dreams of becoming a doctor, I stayed within the healthcare industry, and I worked for a major health conglomerate here in the U.S. And then I got my MBA in marketing and healthcare, but then my degree landed me in a consumer electronics company, and I was in the corporate world for almost 12 years, and I realized I don't think this is serving a purpose. I didn't find it to be fulfilling. And instead, I changed sort of mid-career and went from the corporate for-profit world and into the nonprofit sector. And so I've had I've had quite a journey.
Definitely. But I will connect my next question with this, why I asked you. What do you think? What are the consequences if new generations of girls do not see women like themselves in the leadership positions?
Yeah, I think this is really, really, this is a great question. And I think we all know that um, those of us who were children of immigrants or are immigrants to the United States, or to any country for that matter, when you don't see somebody that looks like you in positions of leadership, in positions of power, in diverse areas, and different vocations, then you think that that is not something that you can aspire to. And how can we tell our girls that no, you can't do this because we've never seen anyone like us do it, right? I remember when I was in grade school, every time they would ask us as kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? So many boys would say President of the United States. And a girl never would say that, right? Because she never saw a president that was female in the United States. And this is really sad, because when I look at, this goes back to this whole conversation about women and rights and stuff. Do you know we have more Muslim led countries that have had women as leaders in prime minister and presidential than we've never had it in the United States. And the United States is considered to be this like most progressive, right? And I think back to little girls need to see more examples of women in leadership, because they will grow up to be that future generation to make more positive change, transformative cultural change. And if they don't see themselves in these positions, then we are at a great loss.
Definitely. I would share this short story with you because I also think it's important, maybe like to add. So one time I have done this interview with an astronaut, Nicole Stott. You probably heard about her. And we asked her, how did you become an astronaut? And she told us, like, just because no one told me that I can't. And
Yeah.
that's the message that we should probably remember. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, but Amra, don't you feel like sometimes in our communities we tell girls no? I feel that sometimes we do, and I think we need to change that and be
Definitely.
like, No, you can do whatever you want. You put your mind to it, you have passion for it, and we will support you. We will have your back.
That's great that you told that. How to build a support system for a woman who wants to run for an office or for any political function? How to build that support system? I'm always, I don't know, I don't see in my country, I don't see that support that I have the feeling that you built in Rise.
Yeah. I feel that sisterhood in general is a very powerful relationship building strategy. Um, I know that we are not here to be everybody's best friend, but I think that there are people in our lives that can support us in different roles. So I have somebody who is like my mentor. You know, when I need advice, I go to her. I have somebody who's like a life coach. When I'm trying to figure out which direction to go, I go to her for help. I have a therapist. I have a spiritual counselor, right? Somebody who helps me be rooted in my own faith traditions to guide me in the decisions that I make. I have other women who are like me. They are running organizations in different parts of the city, the state, and communities. And I talk to them all the time because sometimes I feel like I'm alone in what I'm doing. But when I see all these other women doing similar work, it gives me some sort of validation and some connection and feels like, okay, I can do this. I'll be able to get through this. And I wouldn't have been able to do this if I didn't sort of shown some vulnerability in making those relationships and connections, right? Sometimes you have to be able to share like the losses or the failures or the things that you messed up, the mistakes you made, because you learn from them, right? They are what help build you for the next major event or crisis that's going to come your way. And so I always remind women, reach out to each other. You have no idea when I reach out to somebody, they're so grateful. They're so grateful to make the connection. And there's rarely ever this like power dynamic of like, oh, I'm the more wisdom wise expert in this. It's really very humbling. I have been truly impressed with the way Muslim women will help each other. And Amra, I'll have to say, I feel like this is I feel like the patriarchy has socialized us to constantly compete with each other, and we have to shut that down. We have to break that and disrupt that by doing things together.
That's so amazing. And for my last question, what would you say to a woman who is considering whether to run for the political office right now? How
Yeah.
would you maybe support her with what words?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much advice, right? There's a lot that I can think of, but one is listen. I think be an active listener to the people that you would be representing, right? There are going to be so many other voices of people that are out there that are going to tell you about all the things you're doing wrong and how you're going to mess up and everything. You listen to the people that you would be representing, because that is who you are going to be accountable for and to, and what you will be helping change when you are in office. So be an active listener. And as you listen, have like empathy, right? Build relationships with these people, because they aren't just like subjects in your kingdom. These are people who live in your district, in your city, in your area that you would be representing. Build a relationship with these neighbors, because when you are done with your political office, you're still going to be in that community. You're still going to be living with them, right? It's never going to be over. And my last piece of advice is it shouldn't be just to win the position. It should be a motivation and an inspiration for everybody else that's watching you, because they're looking to see how you are going to lead in this space. And they're not looking for the final outcome of you winning. That is fantastic. We all want you to win. But remember, they're going to watch for the process. They're going to see how you are going to show up and how are you going to use your own the intersecting identities that you hold of community, of your faith, of your gender, like how all these come together. And so I would say to every woman out there, you absolutely should not hesitate to run for office. but be prepared and make relationships and be active listener.
That's so beautifully said. Thank you, Nausheena, for your time. I'm feeling so blessed and privileged to have this opportunity to talk with you. And I have to say, I enjoyed reading your blogs. And I invite everyone to visit your webpage because things that you write are amazing. And thank you once again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.